All right, everybody, welcome to Prime Professional. Listen, we're established this basically to have professionals come on and talk about their expertise and the field and what they do. So today's guest is the all-famous, yes, I'm just going to say it, the all-famous Tamika Moses, the founder of Robin Bird Realty, and Tamika is also the vice president of NARAB, our South Florida board here, and is also the Miami Commercial Board of Governors. And the list goes on. Tamika's been my friend for a while, and I'm so glad you had the opportunity to come on and kind of talk to us a little bit about what you're doing and answer some of the questions that we get coming in every now and then, okay?
Yes.
So with that said, tell me about Robin Bird Realty. Why'd you start it? How long has it been? Give me all the details.
I started Robin Bird Realty a couple of years after I graduated grad school. So, I have my master's degree in real estate. Everybody always picks at me like, you're overeducated. I'm like, in real estate, I'm like, yeah, well, I take the profession seriously. So I had this plan written out like for the last 3 or 4 years prior to me opening up my company.
Okay.
So when I decided just to move forward, because I got tired of bouncing from agency to agent, brokerage to brokerage, because I wasn't finding exactly what I needed, because I wanted to do things on my own terms and my own way and everything. I was playing around with the name Robin Bird Realty. And I'm like, okay, I know I'm passionate about real estate. I know I wanted something dealing with my mom's name. Okay. Because my mother is the one, she the one who really pushed me to go into real estate. Okay. So my mother passed away from breast cancer about 9 years ago. Right. So I kept them this. So when I'm driving around town, just thinking of a name, Robin, or it's gonna be Moses Realty or whatever, and the name Robin Bird just kept on popping up. I'm like, what is this? So I went and Googled it, and I actually found that Robin Bird means passion. Love that. Resilience.
You had no idea whatsoever.
In new beginnings. So I just moved forward with Robin Bird Realty, and fast forward 4 years later, I'm here now with Robin Bird Realty.
Congratulations.
And yes, so I'll be also adding on more agents pretty soon. So I'm working on that right now, because it's only been me, but I've been very successful with what I've been doing. So right now I'm going to start adding on more real estate professionals to my brokerage.
Okay, love that. Listen, I know over the years you have always been passionate about what you do. And I know you do a lot of the residential as well, but you do a lot of commercial, and you've always been passionate about the commercial space. So talk to me a little bit about the commercial space. What's happening in our commercial industry right now as far as it relates to real estate? Talk to me about that.
What's happening right now in our commercial real estate space right now in South Florida is now becoming the New York of the South.
Okay, I love that.
All eyes are on South Florida right now. I think the pandemic really gave headway to a lot of CEOs say, listen, let's just go ahead and just make the move to South Florida, because it's still beautiful weather. And
big companies relocating.
And if we're going to work, and if we're going to have to be shut down, at least let our employees be able to work in beautiful weather, sunshine, no state income taxes, and we love it here. Yeah. So they just start moving around. So one of the biggest deals so far this year, because I know it's going to be other more bigger deals, Citadel. Citadel is owned by Ken Griffin. Ken Griffin has spent $360 million on land. Just land on downtown Miami. They just now, another one of their sister companies just paid $20 million for an apartment building. So I tell people, I say, you have to see the play with what these CEOs are doing. If you're starting to see them buy more multi-million-dollar properties here in the area, either they're going to set up a satellite office or they're moving their entire headquarters here. Great. So he's moving his headquarters from Chicago. Right. He's like, I got tired of the crime. And the number one thing, he said, I got tired of those cold, miserable winters. So they said, you know what, listen, I'm just relocating everything down here. We're moving forward right now. So you're seeing so many of these hedge funds that are moving down here. Right. So they're moving here, and they're loving South Florida weather. And a lot of people, when they had to work from home, I was working with a lot of buyers from out the state. I'm like, well, what are you doing? No, now I can go ahead and work from home. Great. So now a lot of these companies are allowing you to work from home. So people are like, listen, if I have to go to work once a month in California, I would do that. South Florida now is my home.
So that brings up a really great point. I'm glad you mentioned that. And for a lot of the first-time home buyers that are out there as well, it's really important that you listen to what Tamika is saying, because as folks continue to, as big companies, as we mentioned, are constantly looking to relocate here in Miami, that also means they're bringing their employees with them as well. And they're also looking for new employees. So it's really beneficial for you to understand in this market ownership and what that means, because if big companies, Amazon, we know, is relocated, and other companies have relocated, you really want to make sure that you are in the game of home ownership and that you actually own something in this market. So I love that.
Yes.
What else is happening with it?
Yes, ownership is the main thing. So like I said before, you see Citadel, they're buying out an entire apartment building in Brickell. So guess what? They like, well, listen, I don't want my employees to be scrambling around looking for housing.
Exactly.
So I'm just going to buy them a building. So now my employees can have housing, into temporary housing, until they find
it's
something.
It's a win-win. Absolutely.
And so that's what we have to start looking at. You know, areas like your Miami Gardens, your Liberty City, your Overtown. These are been overlooked areas for so many years. And back in 2017, when our ex-president, he decided to do opportunity zones, well, that spurred even more companies to start reinvesting into those areas because it's a tax benefit for them.
Correct.
So like even Miami Gardens has a huge project they're going to start doing because we need industrial space. So now an industrial company just paid $291 million for part of Calder Racetrack, all of that Churchill Downs land, and they're going to start building not only just industrial warehouses for shipping. They're also going to build a movie studio over there. They're going to build television studios over there. So it's so many different things that are just moving parts here in the South Florida market, but it also does affect residential. Because I tell people all the time, I say, listen, you have these major companies that are looking and say, you know what, let's just swoop up all these homes right here. We can make them into rentals, or we can swoop all these homes for our employees. We can rent them out. So it's so important now to have ownership, especially in these areas, because these areas that weren't so desirable 10 years ago, they are highly desirable. So
you mentioned opportunity zones, right?
Yes.
And you and I have talked about this on several occasions. We actually looking into an actual property for one of our investors. The thing about opportunity zones, you mentioned Miami Gardens, but you also mentioned, I think, Liberty City as well. So this is where the opportunity zones, when you're talking about community redevelopment, this is how it happens, folks. There's a lot of tax benefits for land that is being donated by investors or donated by the city and the county for investors to build on. So these are really great opportunities for private investors to hopefully generate some more income coming out of these neighborhoods that have been really struggling for quite some time. So opportunity zones, keyword, you definitely want to be looking at opportunity zones if you're an investor, or even if you're a buyer interested in buying in those areas, just so you know exactly what's coming up in the near future, right?
Oh, yes, most definitely. I always tell people, I say, listen, those areas are being gentrified.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Those areas are becoming so much more valuable.
You got to know what's going on.
You got to know what's going on.
Yes. So one of the questions that came from one of our viewers as well is, what should a buyer be prepared for now as the real estate market starts to shift? Because we know it's starting to shift, right?
Yes.
There's more inventory coming back on the market. Yes, we talked about interest rates going up. However, I keep telling folks, you want to get into the game right now. Even if the interest rate right now is 5.5 or 5.625, whatever it might be, you want to be able to get yourself in the game, because historically, those rates are okay still, right?
Exactly.
Even though we're coming off of a year where the rate was 2.5, 2.75, and sometimes even 3.5. That's great, but realize historically, 5.5 is still a very good interest rate. So with that said, how would you address that question?
It's a very good interest rate. And I tell buyers, I say, if you can afford it, all you're doing now, you're marrying the house, but you're dating the rate. And that's what has been circulating. And that's exactly what it is. And I tell people, I said, this is typically a normal market.
Yep.
When you're seeing 5.5, 5.6, this is what it is. And I say, whatever goes up must come down, especially with interest rates. So when people all say, I'm waiting for the crash, I'm like, we have a shortage of homes. I said, what I've been noticing is, which we all seen it now, a lot of these real estate investment trusts, they want us to become a nation of renters.
Right.
Rent has skyrocketed, okay?
Exactly.
I tell anyone, I said, listen, rent average now has gone about 40%.
Exactly.
So people are being priced out. So I tell people, I say, listen, you have your first, last, and security. I said, that's usually your down payment on a home. I said, now we're coming up with so many down payment assistance programs. And as I always say, Mark is my Mr. Down Payment Assistance Specialist, okay? Anyone that needs that money, Mark knows how to work those programs and get them done very quickly. So I always tell my buyers to prepare. First and foremost, your credit.
Yes.
Your credit is everything.
Got to be prepared for that shift. Absolutely.
I always tell people, I said, listen, you want to be ready. Just get ready.
Correct.
I said, get ready for that. I said, your first thing first is your credit. I said, we have to be able to teach this in our community. Your credit is your livelihood. Don't come up with I just want the minimum of 580. No, you want greater, because guess what? Your interest rate will be much better.
So you mentioned a good point, and I really want to capitalize on that. And that is, a lot of buyers who are waiting, right? We're waiting for the market to shift. We're going to not buy. We're going to wait. We're going to wait for the interest rates to come. We're going to wait for the inventory. And though they're waiting, they're not necessarily preparing themselves for when that when that shift does happen, right? So I always tell folks, just as you mentioned, work on your credit. You got to be dealing with your credit. And then also work on your savings, right? Work on that savings to be able to, when that market shifts, that you are making a good opportunity for yourselves and you've already have all the ducks in a row, right? So what would you say out there right now is a resource that you can recommend for first-time home buyers to be looking at? How should they get their information? Because we know that families and individuals, they're on Zillow, they're on Redfin, they're all on these resources trying to get information. What would be your resource tip that you would be able to give a first-time home buyer?
Well, with a first-time home buyer, I always have people calling me, and I always ask them, have you sat down with a real estate professional?
Okay.
Have you actually sat down with a real estate professional? And I always tell first-time home buyers, I said, you may not want to work with that one real estate professional. Interview your real estate professionals. See if they could tell you about down payment assistance programs, if they have a team in place, like the loan officer, the home inspector, the title company. I say, because these are the key moving parts that you're going to need within your transaction. Make sure that you and your real estate professional, that it's a partnership. You all are working together. It's a common goal. It's not about just the transaction, just to get a check. It's like you want to make sure that real estate professional is working for you. But I always tell them, I said, listen, I understand you were on Zillow. I said, that is outdated information. I need you to sit down. Actually take the time to sit down. Do a 1 hour interview. I said, because this is the biggest investment that you can ever make, is going into a home.
And you got to be willing to, you also have to be willing to really compromise, right? There are a lot of families out there, they'll see a property and, the paint color is wrong and they don't like it, and they walk away from an investment opportunity, right? So I always say, go into home ownership building your team of professionals, because that makes the process easier. And making sure that you're making the introductions. Introduce your loan officer to your realtor. Introduce your inspector to your realtor. And build yourself that team, because that's what's going to be key to making sure that everyone's on the same page and the smooth transaction takes place, right?
Exactly.
Good. Love that. So other question, what are some updates? Well, you gave us a lot of updates with the real estate market. So the next would be, what would be one of the best tips that you could give a home buyer, and not only a home buyer, but a realtor in this profession? Your number one tip.
Oh, God, your number one for a new realtor?
For a new realtor, absolutely.
For a new realtor, I always tell a new realtor, listen, you are part of the Miami Board of Realtors or Broward, whomever. They have plenty of classes. I need you to be a professional. You have to know this business. So I always tell them, number one is education, education, education. Don't be the secret agent. I said, but you have to know your stuff in this market.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest things, is to be educated. Because you have some people that get that license, they're out there. No, you got to know how to negotiation. Contract, the biggest thing is the contract. I've seen some contracts. I'm like, you're gonna lose somebody escrow.
Right.
You're gonna lose somebody escrow.
Keep messing around. You're gonna lose
what are you doing? And I always tell new realtors, any brokerage that you're joining, don't look at the commission split. Look at what is being offered. What type of training? I always tell people, get some recommendations.
You know what I saw just the other day, and that was a real estate firm that was doing some role play. and they were actually doing some role play on social media. And I thought it was a really great idea.
It is.
Because for a new real estate agent, and I would even say for a new loan officer, if you're in this market and you're going to get into this industry, it's really important, as you say, get the education. There's tons of resources out there for you to get some more education, more information, so that when you're out there talking to your clients, you come from a point of education, you come from a point of knowing your information, right?
Exactly.
So when you're out there, you want to just make sure that you are building those relationships, but, being able to talk and negotiate, you
want to be able to talk
and have those conversations, and also be truly honest with your client. If you know that your client is not ready at this point in time, what can you do in the information that you share to get them prepared?
Exactly.
So that's really key and important as well.
That's key. And with the education, you know how to make a plan for your client.
Yes.
You know how to plan. If their credit is not ready, okay, then I have a recommendation for you. Let's get this prepared. Let's see how we can start your savings account, because you want to be educated. You want to be a resource.
Yes, absolutely.
And I always tell agents that, I say, you don't want to be, no, you want to be that resource, because they're going to want to be more willing to work with you because you are a resource. You're giving them valuable information to get them into that property.
Correct.
That property is, I tell them, it's not a liability, it's an asset. And you want to be there and say, you know what, I was the realtor to help them get that asset to start building wealth.
Correct. And so to that point, you'll have some real estate agents, and I've even seen it with loan officers as well, that will say, you know what, the client's going to take too much of my time. I'm not going to work with them. And I get that. You really want to work with clients that are ready to go. But be thinking about that for a minute and dial it back. And the reason why I say that is because that client doesn't necessarily mean that they're not ready now and won't be ready in the future, right? Even if they're not ready now, I should say, it doesn't mean that they couldn't be ready for in the future. Maybe 6 months from now, maybe a year from now. And you don't know necessarily who they know, right?
Yeah.
So are you asking those questions? Is there somebody in your family? Is there a coworker that could benefit from our services? And having those honest discussions. Like I said, they may not be ready now, but in 6 months or 12 months, what have you shared with them so that they're going to be ready to pull the trigger when they are?
And that has happened. I've had some really great friends. A lot of my friends, they buy houses through me. So I've had a friend, and we were looking for months, and she said, I'm not finding what I need. Right. And I told her, I said, let's take a break.
Yep.
Let's take a break.
Absolutely.
She took a break for a year and a half, finished her master's. When she finished her master's, we found a house within a couple of weeks. She was like, I was glad to take that time. And I'm like, and she's like, you work? I said, I'm going to work with you to the end, no matter what. Because I hear realtors all the time, I'm not working with that person. You never know who they may recommend you to. Yeah. I said, they may be looking at a house for $300,000, they may have a friend looking at a house for $800,000. Right. I said, you never know. And I said, you're building, real estate is a relationship builder. It's not just about the transaction. I still go to lunch with some of my clients right now, some of my friends. We call each other on our holidays. They invite me over for lunch.
Birthdays,
for dinner,
anniversaries,
everything. So I tell people, I say real estate is a relationship business. So that's why I want new realtors to realize that this is a relationship, it's a business.
Right.
But at the same time, you building a relationship. You want to be that realtor. They pick up the phone. Hey, I got a quick question. But oh yeah, by the way, I was talking to my cousin. They're looking for a house or whatever. Right. You never know. Or they're looking for a commercial building or whatever. Exactly. I told them about you. So
you got to ask the question.
Yes.
You definitely have to ask the question.
Exactly. So, but one thing for certain, my number one tip for brand new realtors is to be educated.
Good.
You got to be that education. It goes a long way. And I told them be educated, and also I'll need you to read. Right. Read the newspaper. I tell people don't realize I am up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning reading the newspaper. Yeah. I read about 10 different newspapers a day. Great. People are like, how do you do all that? Right. You got to know what's going on in this market.
Turn it on. Absolutely. Yes. Love that. So I'm going to leave now with a tip for our home buyer. And that is run your race. And here's what I mean by that. There's a lot of individuals that are trying to keep up with the Joneses, as they say, right? And they're making mistakes when if they ran their race and kept their race going at the pace that it should be going, that they would be in a home quicker than they actually would thought they would never be. So I urge you to just continue to run your race. Thank you so much for Tamika for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No worries whatsoever. I love this. Welcome to Prime Professional by Mark Williams again, and I look forward to hearing from everybody and giving us your feedback. Talk to you soon. Take care.